This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Marty from the Accelerator team, and thank you for watching our 100th episode. So as a special treat, we've got someone amazing. Janet, to be fair, I think I've probably asked you like over a year ago to come on the podcast the first time we asked you.
I thought you hadn't asked me at all. I thought I was invited by Jack.
To be honest, I'm sure I've got the receipts of the mentioning it a long time. But anyway, so we've got Janet Fay from Coversure Newcastle. And Janet, your specialist topic today is insurance. Good,
because that's what I do.
There we go. We line up the guest with the topic quite well.
Very good.
So, of course, people in business, they kind of go, well, insurance, well, what's that all about? And I suppose, is it worth just going through one by one what the common types of insurance are, and why you might need them, the mistakes people make when they're buying them, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it would probably be a good idea, because most people, when they're starting in business, they haven't got a clue, and more often than not.
Do you mean generally or about insurance?
Just generally about insurance.
All right, okay.
What happens is they'll maybe see a business advisor who say you need this type of insurance, but that's all they mention, and that's fair enough because it's not their subject.
I've got to be honest with you. In my experience, we often see people and they've been in business for a year and a half, and they've had business advice, and they go like, oh yeah, no, he said I need a business card, a website. You're like, did they mention accounts at all, or keeping basic records, or
right?
So so we find that some of the things we think are pretty important are often overlooked entirely. Do you find that with insurance? Do you speak to people and they go, oh, when are you planning on starting? And they're like, oh, I've been going 9 months.
Yeah, that does happen. And it's more often than not, they'll call you a couple of days or a couple of weeks after they started and say, I think I'd better sort out some insurance. What do I need? Which is the ideal situation for us, because the thing that we thrive on is just giving a bit of advice, really.
Yeah. Should we start on then who needs insurance?
Right. Well, everybody...
You can't just say everybody, because they'll think you're just trying to say...
Everybody that starts in business, that's starting to earn a living from their business or starting to earn some income from their business. Yeah. If they're doing any sort of activity to do with their business, that's really when they need it. And
is there a blurry line there then, Janet, between hobby where you sell a bit in business? Because to be honest, it's if you're at risk from getting sued or you could injure someone, it doesn't matter whether it's a hobby or a business.
Yeah, that's right.
It's more about protecting yourself from the risk, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you can go, oh no, it's just a hobby. I just make 500 plant pots a week for a hobby. But
once some money's changing hands.
As soon as there's money involved, it's commercial, it's a reality then,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's it, exactly.
So as soon as you start to earn money from an activity, you probably then have a customer or an employee or a supply chain who could sue you,
exactly.
I suppose.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And we're going to talk really about the risk of getting sued or loss or fire or theft, rather than, we're not insuring against debt or bankruptcy here.
No, that's right.
We'll just talk about the key types of normal insurance everyone needs to know about.
It's more or less financial loss arising from carrying out a business.
From claim,
activity.
Presumably.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, okay. So, where do we start then? In our game, we give advice for a living. We're not selling plant pots. We give advice, and we can get sued if our advice is wrong. That's professional indemnity. Should we start there then?
Yeah, we can start there. I mean, it's not always just about advice, but carrying out a professional activity. So, for instance, a web developer that sets up an e-commerce site, they might not be advising the client, but they may set up a site that is taking money, and if they're not putting the correct protections on that site, and there's a loss of data.
Someone's got to carry the can.
Somebody's got to carry the can on that, and there's obviously alongside that comes that then stretches into cyber insurance, which I'll not go into. It's not something that people do regularly take cover for, but it's really something that's very much advised if you're transacting anything online. And all businesses, I have a cyber policy. All businesses that do anything online could potentially have a cyber attack.
Because you could be it is attack, isn't it? Cyber attack is exactly what you want. Your data held captive, you could lose your data. All of these things are pretty big interruptions for a business, aren't they?
And it's not necessarily something that's in the public domain. It could be something as simple as someone sending you an invoice and you paying an invoice, or a director paying an invoice that's a spam.
So like a fraudulent.
Yeah, because that's what cyber covers you for that as well.
So we didn't have cyber on the list, but we've covered off cyber. Should we go back to professional indemnity then?
Yeah, why not?
So it's not just people giving advice, but it's anyone who's delivering a service other than a product.
Yes, it's an error or omission arising from your professional activity.
In the delivery of a service.
Exactly.
And professional, is that a bit of a misnomer? Because it's not just accountants, solicitors, surveyors.
No. Trades can possibly be involved in that.
Because if you're a builder and you go out and say, oh yeah, no, that lintel's absolutely fine, but they don't do any work, could they, are they still opening up to risk there? Or?
Potentially. It's more sort of where people get involved in design. So for instance, electricians quite often are asked for PI, as we call it, because they'll design an installation, electrical installation, and if that fails, then the design can come back to them. Bathroom designers, people who design heating systems, particularly for large commercial premises, can sometimes need PI. We do quite often have people come to us and say, I've been told I need this, and I then investigate where the risk might lie and say to them, if you can tell me what you think the risk is, I'll go to insurers and ask, but I can't see.
But we can't see a risk there,
where it is, and that's.
Because some people are just super cautious, aren't they? Whereas others are, seat of the pants.
Sometimes the banks tell them to do it, or a professional body says to them, "You need this," and we start to look at it, and that's the benefit of dealing with a broker, a person that'll give you that advice.
Yeah.
Not
you can
just
theoretically get the answer on Google, but you've got to ask the right question, haven't you? It's quite hard.
Yeah, and then sometimes you ask a question, there's a further question, and it really you need a person to speak to about that.
Yeah. So we've covered off professional indemnity. What's the next main cover then?
I would say public liability, and alongside that comes products liability.
Right.
Public liability is where if you cause loss or injury to a person through the actions of your business. So for instance, a joiner goes into someone's house to fit a kitchen and damages a door while they're walking through with a plank of wood, or a painter and decorator spills paint on the carpet when they're decorating a room and fails to cover it up. This sounds fairly small, but you could also put a nail through a pipe and flood someone's house entirely. Yes. And unless you're going to put your hand in your pocket, assuming it's their responsibility, either you've got to pay for it or you need insurance to cover you. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the product's liability.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, did you want that?
No, I was just going to say, so how does that tie in with, you've got a bathroom fitter, you said they might need professional indemnity. Would they need both then? If they're also fitting, if they're designing and fitting bathrooms,
exactly, yes.
Then you could get sued for the wrong design, but also you might still also break something while you're on. Yeah.
Yes, it's sort of, if you think about PI's intellectual and public's physical.
Right.
It probably helps you keep clear in your mind what.
So if you're an architect who never picks a tool up, it's the professional indemnity. If you're just in site delivering someone else's plans, public liability? Yes. Or is it not? It's probably not as simple as that, is it?
You could do with having public liability. I would say every business person should have public liability, because just by physically going to someone's property, they could cause. I mean, you could be measuring and drop something on someone's foot and break their foot. Or you could plug in your laptop in someone's. If you go out to visit a client, plug your laptop in and cause a short. Somebody could trip over the cable. So it's
most people interact with the public in some way, don't they?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So public liability, professional indemnity, products. You were just going to say product liability.
That's liability out of the product that you supply. And
so we sell spoons.
Yeah.
What?
Possibly it could come back to you if you sell them, but it's more of
Spoon's a
your
bad example, isn't it?
If you manufacture something, so for instance,
electrical products, we'll make it. We'll make TVs in this example.
Yeah, so electrical products. If you sell them, you probably have products liability automatically with your public liability policy. It's very unlikely a claim would come back to you as the seller of that product. The only time that would come back to you is if the original manufacturer the product's liability failed, or you failed to retain rights of recourse to the manufacturer. So a lot of Chinese companies, for instance, don't have product liability, and insurers are very wary about anyone who's supplying a Chinese product.
So if you're importing and selling a product,
yes,
you've got to check the supply chain, or you're going to have to just find a way to either take the risk on, or you have to insure against it somehow, but it might be hard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And sometimes you get.
So if you're making TVs in the UK,
if you're making TVs in the UK, then you definitely need product liability.
Yeah. And I've said TVs, but again, you might think, well, I'm making spoons. Spoons can't cause damage, but you could poison someone if you get the mix wrong with the metal or something. You know, so if you're going to be selling stuff,
it's
worth
really
thinking
quite
about.
Strange. I mean, one of the sort of first ever cases where I had someone come to me and say, I need product liability, nothing else, was a lady working from home who was designing onesies. She was having them manufactured for her, but she was in charge of the quality control, so it came back to her, and she said, if I leave a pin, if a pin's been left in or something like that, I need the product's liability.
Of course, yeah.
And she went on from that tiny little policy to having 2 factories, so that was a really nice start for us, and kept a relationship right until she closed her business, which is it's lovely to.
But actually, you bring an interesting point, which we'll come on to later. But yeah, and I think it's part of what you're going to close on as well. But so we'll leave that. But I'll come back to it. So let's just say, right, this lady's doing that. Part of her journey, then at some point, I presume she got help in which case she needs employees. Sorry.
Yeah, she needs employers' liability.
Yeah,
that's really the next step. As soon as you have someone in your control, someone you're directing, and that even falls to charities who have volunteers, even though they don't pay them. It's what we call a master servant.
There's still a worker within the definition. They're still coming in, opening up
relationship. They're going under the direction, and they're seen to be representing that charity or company.
Yeah. If you're standing behind the till in a charity shop, you can't have someone who volunteers but then say, oh, by the way, if you hurt yourself, it's nothing to do with us.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about self-employed people then, Janet? Because we find in the tax world a lot of people go, oh, I haven't got to put them on the payroll, they're self-employed. It's not always as black and white as that. Mm-hmm. But you know, like the Uber drivers, no one thought Uber drivers were going to be workers within the definition of the employment law, but then they were. I mean, I presume, does that change where they sit on insurance and liability perspective?
The way we look at it is labour-only subcontractors and bona fide subcontractors. So a labour-only subcontractor is a person who, in everything but name, is an employee.
I get someone in to mix me mortar. I'm the bricky. Lad comes in just to mix me mortar for us. Yeah. Sits with us 8 hours a day mixing me mortar.
So all he's selling to the employer is labour.
Yeah.
Bona fide subcontractor is someone who has a bona fide business, so they supply their own tools, their own materials. They may have employees themselves.
So a builder might get someone in to do their roofing or their windows.
Yes.
They turn up, they measure the window, they sort the window out, they fit it, they've got their own lads, they pay their own lads, like all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not regarded as employees or under a head count, if you like, that an insurer would. But as far as a labour-only subcontractor is concerned, they're seen as employees, and the employer still has to have employer's liability.
So you might go, I've got no employees at all.
Yeah.
But the person, I said lad, could be a lass, I suppose, the person who's providing labour, in the eyes of insurance, they're still my responsibility.
Exactly.
We'll not use the word employed or self, but they're your responsibility because they're working for you repeatedly and providing labour. Is that the way to think about it?
That's exactly it.
What happens in the example then of the builder who someone comes in and like the window fitter, they're the one who knacks it up. I'm the homeowner, my contract was with the builder. What happens there then? So I'll say to the builder, right, I need you to sort this out.
Well, they'll come to the builder first of all.
Because they might not even know the window fitter wasn't part of their team.
Exactly.
A good builder would hide all of that anyway. They would go, we'll sort it all out for you.
Exactly. They would then point them in the direction of the window fitter. But there is contingent cover. If, for instance, the window fitter's insurance fails for one reason or another, then there is contingent cover in the...
So a good policy for the builder would... Because they're the end provider of the service, aren't they?
Yes.
You paid me all of the money. The fact that I bought some of that help in, you don't care about, do you?
No.
You're still going to want to sue me if I've done something wrong. So a proper policy there will cover you if the window fitter's insurance doesn't step in?
It should pick it up. Usually, when you ask a question like that, we ask about labour-only subcontractors, we ask about bona fide subcontractors, and a condition of the policy will always be that you check that any of your bona fide subcontractors retain the same level of public liability cover that you do.
I knew you were going to go there. How many people do you think actually do that?
I would like to think that our clients do, because we point it out to them every time we take a policy on or renew it. Let's assume
you're not talking about your clients though, Janet.
They probably take no notice of me anyway.
Because we say to people, you can't just pay people. They've either got to be employed or on, you got to check their status. We've got some people literally go, who's Dave? They go, oh, Dave, that's me, that's this party, right? Yeah. Do you know his surname? They don't even know their surname. I was just
going to say that. We get to say
they haven't checked their insurance. They haven't checked any ID. It's like, okay.
We get that with drivers on policies. Just ring up and say, can you cover Dave? And go, what's your surname?
It's like, Dave.
What's Dave's surname?
Dave from the club, man. You know Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I suppose a risk there then is, if you're getting the subbies in, check their damn insurance. Yeah. Because otherwise your insurance is going to cover it, isn't it?
It's good. Well, potentially, but if you're not...
sorry, you're carrying the risk and your insurance might not cover it.
It might not cover it.
It's not our fault you didn't check their insurance.
Exactly.
It's on you, that, isn't it? That's what I meant. So you're going to carry the can, aren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, then, and the reason I ask that then is, and again, I'm using builders, it could be anything. It could be a web developer who gets someone in to do some programming on the back end of the site. Could be us buying in some specialist advice on something. It doesn't matter. We're the customer-facing person. We are the first point of claim, aren't we? And the reason I ask that is you just think, but I didn't do that. How can I be at fault? And that's just not how it works, is it?
No.
If we're repackaging someone else's time, service, product into ours, we adopt that risk, don't we?
Yes.
Or possibly.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, okay. It's worth just clarifying. So let's just say then, right, things are going well. We've got professional indemnity because we're designing stuff. We've got public liability because we're interacting with the public. We've got employees. We've considered all the stuff we just talked about.
Yeah.
We've bought a factory now, Janet. We've got some machinery.
Yeah. Well, you've got some property that you need to protect, and that's the next what's called the material damage area of cover. So what insurers will need to know about that is how much it's worth, what it is, and what protections that you have on that, how you're keeping that safe. And with a building, clearly it'll be construction, and whether it's a standard construction, and again, security is pretty important there.
Because depending on what you're doing, it'll attract a higher level of risk, won't it?
Yes. If
you've got an empty shed in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing in it, there's not much to be lost. I mean, the property itself.
Possibly.
But if you've got a diamond warehouse, in the middle of somewhere a bit spurious, let's just say, we won't name anywhere, but there's going to be a greater level of risk. So would it be normal to expect stipulations to be put on the cover then? We're going to cover you
quite often, yes.
So we want minimum, we want this, we want that. Yeah.
There will always be a minimum level of security, the minimum level of
even
security.
For a basic shed?
For a basic shed, yeah. So your minimum level of security will be standard 5-lever motor sted locks, key-operated window locks, accessible windows. So that's anything that's ground floor or accessible via a flat roof. And certain locks on patio doors or, sliding doors or whatever.
Any point of entry, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, insurers may require that you have metal roller shutters, an alarm, certain type of signal on your alarm, maintenance contracts on your alarm, possibly CCTV cameras. If we put the shoe on the other foot, anything that you've got that enhances your security is a benefit and will make the risk more attractive to insurers.
Right, okay.
So
it's a bit like back in the day, when trackers were first becoming a thing on car, get trackers on, your insurance will go down.
Exactly.
Because they're more likely to recover the car.
Yeah.
So if you can show a reduced risk, because that's all you're doing, you're insuring against the level of risk.
Exactly. So you don't necessarily get a reduction in premium, but it might make you a more acceptable risk to insurers who have a lower
choice of more insurances.
Therefore, more competition and more likely for a premium to be reduced as a result of the competition. And
not in accordance with our agenda here, but I'm not naming any names, but I'm seeing some adverts on the telly at the moment about, we cover you for all these really weird things. Do you know who I mean?
I'm trying to think of who that is. I don't watch commercial television that much. Sorry, that sounds really snobby. I know, I don't mean that. Oh right, yes.
I watch them. So there's adverts on this is really obscure, and don't worry, we'll cover you for that. They make it sound like they're the only people in the world who cover for these fairly mundane things. They're not that terribly exciting.
No, they're trying to make themselves stand out from the rest.
Just a sales pitch, right? Okay.
Just a sales pitch.
This might be a bit cryptic, and if I've lost you, I do apologise. But next time you see the advert on the telly, you'll go, I wonder if that's who he meant. But it's like, someone's been in and spilled paint down someone's stairs. You wouldn't have got cover anywhere else. Was that not
standard cover on
that's
household?
That's literally what insurance cover is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. On that, are there any things in particular where people just keep ringing up and going, Janet, this happened? Do you go, that's not covered?
The most common one is damage to flat roofs. It rained last night really heavily and the rain came in. All policies have a requirement for there to be a storm condition. It's a storm condition where there's water ingress through a roof, and a storm condition is so many miles an hour winds that have actually lifted the roof and
so
caused
saying
the storm damage.
I thought you were saying stone. I was thinking stone. That doesn't make any
storm
sense.
Damage. Yeah.
Well, so someone loves it.
But
right, so it might have rained last night, that's a flat roof, we're not bothered unless it was wild. It would have to be wild for that to be covered.
And it had to,
is that just because flat roofs always leak?
Yes, it's all about maintenance, because wear and tear.
Because they don't last forever, do
properties,
they?
Yeah. So flat roofs are a typical example, but any roof really, if rain comes through the roof, it's because there's a hole in it, and the hole was probably there before the rain came. And if that's the case...
the rain didn't cause the hole,
The rain didn't cause the hole.
Whereas a storm might cause a hole that let the rain in.
If you remember a couple of years ago, Storm Arwen, I had clients whose whole roofs lifted off, and there's no disputing those circumstances.
Yeah.
But more often than not, if you have a leak because of the rain, it's very unlikely to be covered.
Right. Because that would catch people out. I think they'd go, what the hell am I paying for then?
Exactly. We get that. It's a very, very regular occurrence where there's a heavy,
To be fair, if you spot the leak, it shouldn't cause that much damage either, should it?
It shouldn't, no.
Unless you let the thing go for months. But
yeah, it's about maintenance.
See water get on it, yeah.
And if you do have a flat roof, just remember that there will nearly always be a flat roof condition on there, which is documented inspection of that roof on a regular basis. Could be annually or biannually, and it could you have to have documentation to prove that not only is it being inspected, but any faults have been rectified.
Yeah.
And keep receipts of any work.
Because I remember, so it'll be 7 years ago now when we moved, and every year you go, any flat roofs then, Martin? Well, your team do anyway. I'm asking, whoever it was at the time would go like, well, why does that matter? It's like, I didn't realise that. That's interesting. So yeah, I think we were asked what percentage of the roof was flat roof. Am I making that up? Yeah. Is it over a certain percentage? Then I presume they want to know, don't they?
They do, and certain insurers don't accept flat roofs.
Yeah. And the risk there is you might go, oh no, it's tiny, but you literally might not be covered, might you?
Well, I have had a circumstance where a client genuinely thought that the flat roof was about 10% of their total roof area, and it's very easy to misconstrue that. If you don't really think about it. And he had a claim. 10%
of a roof space is a tiny. It's a
tiny percentage.
It's not this table, but it's pretty small, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, our flat roof is certainly. I mean, it might even be it's certainly a quarter.
Yeah.
Definitely 20%. So yeah. Anyway, would something like that would that invalidate the entire claim?
It could
or would they go, yeah, but it was an electrical fire. It was nothing to do with the roof. But but you just weren't covered. Is it binary or is it not?
Certain insurers, and there was one a couple of years ago that went out of business, and certain insurers would use that. And I hear every day clients saying, insurers like to look at the small print. And most insurers, 99% of insurers want to pay claims. They want you to be covered, but they have to apply their policy wording to your claim.
Yeah. They'd be out of business pretty quick if they were just like, oh yeah, you seem canny, we'll pay out.
Well, I have had circumstances
but they would be out of business if they just, so they've got to apply it, but also they're in business to cover you, aren't they?
Yes.
They've built that into their figures, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. But I have known insurers where there's been a fire. I chose not to deal with that insurer because I'd heard about this problem. So I've heard about people that had a fire, and because they didn't have a 5-lever mortise deadlock on their door, they threw the claim out because that was a condition of the policy, and legitimately they can't do that.
But it's a bit like if you're driving a car and it's not MOT'd, well, you shouldn't have been on the road.
Yeah.
So you can't claim on the insurance. It's like
potentially, yes.
Yeah, and so some do, but it's not black and white. In
a circumstance like that, you would argue, did that contribute to the claim? Yeah. And that's what a lot of brokers did.
Unless someone
with this
broke
insurer.
in easily and set fire to the house.
Exactly.
It was never to do with the lock, was it?
No.
Okay then. I mentioned cars briefly a second ago. Fleet insurance?
Yeah.
What's a fleet? Because I need some people now. I need them out on the road in vans and cars and that, Janet. What's that about then?
Well, a fleet's 2 or more in some circumstances, vehicles, but really ideal fleet's 3 or more. There's a couple of insurers that will look at 2 or more, but you can get a multi-vehicle policy with 2 anyway. There's options there.
And how does that work then? Because you've said, Chuck Dave on the insurance. I mean, would fleet cover, anybody who works there normally, or do you have to have a named driver? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, benefits of fleet. Benefits of fleets are if you is fleet discount, which applies rather than having a no claims discount. You don't automatically lose your fleet discount if you have a claim. What insurers do take into account is what they call the burden costs of a fleet. So if they look at my first job was as a fleet underwriter, so it's quite a handy one, and it's an area I really love to deal with. So if a fleet is costing the insurer more money or a big percentage of the amount of premium you've paid over the last 3 years, your premium will increase, but you don't automatically have one little claim. You have a windscreen claim or a £500 claim. You don't automatically have an increase in premium because you've lost your no claims bonus.
Yeah, so
it's
more of a commercial barter than a...
Yeah, it's more flexible. Any driver cover is very likely and very possible on a fleet policy. Because
subject to conditions, presumably?
Yes, subject to
minimum age, no points, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Usually they say 6 points or less, that's okay. Good background, no criminal convictions, that sort of thing.
That sounds like an area where, with all of the businesses full of bureaucracy, unfortunately, this sounds like an area where you need to almost just check in once a month and go, you haven't got any more points, have you, Dave? Because if you're letting someone drive and you haven't asked them how many points, Is there, are you
It's
opening
an annual thing. So insurers,
So
if
it's at
someone
the point
gains
of
points,
renewal.
as with car insurance, if you gain points during the year, you don't need to tell insurers until renewal, which is when the review takes place.
But if you're renewing your fleet insurance, you need to ask everybody who works there at the time, how many points have you got?
Yeah. I always advise clients to do an annual licence check, because you can go online on the DVLA with the permission of your employee and just get a print off of the licence.
As evidence that you did it. And
because you don't have a physical licence now. Many years ago you would just take a photocopy of the licence, but you don't have that now. And people get points without sometimes they get points without knowing about it. And we sometimes get permission to do licence checks for
But again, that
clients.
feels like an area of possible risk and weakness there. If you're a type of business who's ad hoc, leave everything at the last minute.
Exactly.
You're wasting money on a premium that's not going to pay out because Dave's got 9 points.
That's true, but it's also one of the risk factors that that insurers take into account is we have risk mitigating factors that we ask about. So, do you do an annual licence check, and do you do a licence check for new employees? Do you give them a handbook of what to do in an accident and checking for faults? Do you regularly check vehicles for faults? Do you have a maintenance programme? Do you have cameras in the vehicles?
Do you have trackers on?
Do you have trackers? All those things will help reduce your premium.
Because also you might have a policy that says, Dave, you can use that all day long, but you're not going shopping at the weekend.
Yeah.
Dave goes shopping at the weekend anyway and doesn't care, gets in a crash. Like, again, if you haven't got clear policies, it's quite hard to enforce any of these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you what would happen there because we're going to run out of time, but I would imagine the insurers might go, well, we don't cover you for personal use because you said there was none. So Dave's just on the hook there, isn't he?
Yeah.
But Dave's not going to buy you no van. Someone who gets a job without a surname isn't going to give you the money for a van, is he?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So look after yourself. The insurance isn't going to cover all of your ails, is it?
No.
So what about, directors and officers you mentioned then? So I might be a director of a company. In theory, if I commit an action on behalf of the company that causes loss, I could be on the line personally. Is that what the insurance is for?
It's a protection for directors and officers of a company. If you are negligent in in your role running that company, so for instance, you get them into financial problems by just spending all the money that comes into the bank account without thinking about your liabilities. You can be sued by fellow directors.
Just remind Janet, what would be covered if you negligently spent all? Because at some point it's not negligent anymore, is it? It's like at some point you've just been reckless. Is there a line? Do you go, well, you got into a bit of bother, but that was a lot of bother. You should have known.
It's really whether you're sued by fellow directors.
So it's protecting you within, not from your suppliers and your external lot. Right? Okay, I'm with you. Sorry.
So it's if you sued, it's a bit of a funny one to try and explain to people, but there's also a fact that if you're sued for a director is sued for the policies that they apply in the business, where sexual harassment occurs, discrimination occurs. You can be sued by either fellow directors or members of staff. Sue you for not applying the policy. So you allow something to happen.
Because you think as an employer, my business has got all the insurance it needs. Yeah, but if you're running the business, well, at some point it's your personal decision, not the company's decision, isn't it?
Exactly. So as a firm of accountants,
so if you as a director ignore your own policies,
yes,
you're opening the door to personal risk, aren't you?
Yes.
So I'm with you, right?
You may
do that accidentally. I'm not saying you.
It's possible, but you may also, if you think as a firm of accountants, will perhaps advise someone to have a limited liability company, and you think that as a director, you have no liability because you're just a director. You still have personal responsibilities.
I always say to people, I've got a method of explaining it where I say, you get your limited protection as long as you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
As soon as you start not doing things right, you're opening the door, and the more you do wrong, the more likely you are to have a personal liability. Because it's not just a catch-all, is it? It's not, I've got limited protection, I can do what I want. It's not that.
Exactly.
And I think people often forget that. You've mentioned cyber, and I was probably going to ask you, well, and I think it's linked, but you know, what's the thing where we normally say, what do people keep getting wrong on this? And I've got a follow-up question if you say what I think you're going to say.
Well, I think the most important thing is to keep your insurer or your broker informed of any changes.
Yeah.
Businesses change. Activities might change. You might buy lots of equipment during the year and not think to increase your cover.
The value, yeah.
We quite often find that you speak to a client and go, I actually speak to clients at renewal who tell me they moved address 6 months ago.
Well.
So they have no cover for 6 months.
So your factory wasn't even covered.
Tell you moved. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, bought the building. Did we not insure the building? You know,
it's funny because people would think of that with their home insurance. Well, I don't know, maybe they don't.
You would think so, yes.
But you go, oh yeah, no, I've moved house.
Yeah.
Or like, you moved premises, you would think that would be on the list of like people to tell, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, even things like, so for instance, it could be a restaurant that starts to do outside catering. So their business activities have changed.
And it has live music, or
they bring in, or a pub that brings in live music and starts putting on garden, you know,
axe throwing demonstrations.
Yeah, mini festivals.
Bouncy castles in the garden.
Oh my God! Don't even go there. Sorry.
Do you have nightmares about bouncy castles? Do you? With village fates.
I'm having a nightmare about a particular bouncy castle at the moment, but yeah. Yeah.
So, because I kind of knew you were going to say that, because you told me you were going to say that. But that made me think earlier when I kind of mentioned, you know, the diamond factory. You know, people do just. You can't ask at the start of a business and then just go, got it. I'll go away and I'll just buy that policy forever. It's an ever-changing thing, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the things that we like to say.
Not just at renewal either.
No, it's during the course of the year.
If you've insured a fleet with 3 vans, you would go, I've added 6 more vans on, I better ring someone. But because it feels obvious. But someone might go, oh, well, I've insured for 20 grand's worth of equipment, but I've just bought 50 grand's worth of... I don't think that would cause the same connection to go, better ring Janet.
I think you have to think of any big financial commitment during the course of the year, then you speak to your broker. We do tend to keep in touch with people. I would never see us as being a transactional broker. We do keep in touch with people and find, you know, and it's just different little activities. For instance, you might be a company that put on little events, you know, they have meetings here, there and everywhere. And then all of a sudden you put a whole one-day event on with 200 attendees and your broker thinks, you tell your broker and I think, yeah, we'd better check this and get it. Yeah. That's a different risk to what you've been, something you've been doing. So you start to think, if I'm doing something really different in business to the norm, should I run this past my insurance broker or insurer?
I mean, use the word really. I presume you don't want people to wait until it's really different. It maybe isn't going to be that much different. Because you might go, yeah, well, I'm selling hot dogs in a cafe. Presumably takeout delivery of hot dogs is sufficiently different, but you're still just selling hot dogs.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, maybe not.
Something like that. Most policies like that, say a cafe that start doing delivery.
Yeah. I didn't mean necessarily food delivery, but they might go, oh, well, I'm still just designing bathroom. Yeah, but you're doing something. It's sufficiently different that we needed to know about it.
If you're doing bathrooms for domestic customers, residential customers, and then someone rings you up and says, we've got a hotel, you can tender for this contract for a hotel, and we want en suites put in every room. You think to yourself, hang on a second, this is a bit different.
It's still
than what
just
I've been
bathrooms,
doing.
But it's different. Yeah, that's what I mean. It like you go, well, a bathroom's a bathroom. Surely, what does it matter? Yeah, but if you flood a hotel, it's a little bit different to flooding a house around the corner, isn't it?
Yeah. anything
So
that's relevant.
is it that keeping you up to date then? That's the single biggest thing?
That's essential, because what you don't want to do is find out when you have a claim that you should have rung your broker to.
Because you'll never take that on the chin and go, well, that was my fault. You always go, why did you not tell me?
That's it, exactly.
But unfortunately, we did tell you, but that's the bit you didn't read. We did tell you that you need to let us know if anything changes.
Any changes, yeah.
Listen, Janet, thank you very much. And
you're very welcome.
That's been very interesting, because to be honest, I've been around all this for a long time. And there's still like little blurry bits in the middle where I think, oh, I don't know the answer to that. But that's why I always recommend people speak to a broker.
Exactly.
As you should, because these things are complex. And you might be sitting and go, well, hold on, there's a lot of information there. I presume you're happy for people to reach out, Janet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Always happy for the phone to ring.
During office hours? No.
They do happen out of office hours.
I remember speaking to you quite a bit during lockdown and COVID, and obviously, so I think you like us, whereas a lot of people were less busy.
Yeah.
You went nuts with,
Absolutely.
We were the same, and it's not a 9 to 5 job sometimes, is it?
It's not, but you don't mind that, It's nice to feel useful and helpful to people.
Because you need to be there at the time when they need it.
When people need you. Yeah. Agreed.
Right. Thank you very much, Janet.
You're
That's
welcome.
insurance. We've gone through 6, 7, 8 key areas. I think that's enough for anyone in one episode of a podcast. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. That's insurance from Janet. And as I always say, please hit the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. Give us any feedback. Reach out to Janet if you've got any queries. But meanwhile, that was our 100th episode. So
I'm honoured. Thank you very much.
Next, I might, do you want a birthday? We'll get you a little cupcake on the way out of the building or something to celebrate, because we should have made a big fanfare about that. But thank you very much. See you next time.